I have as special guest Robbie Davidson, Celebrate Truth on YouTube, who's also a videographer, filmmaker, and as hosting and putting on the Flat Earth Conference this upcoming November 8th through the 10th, and is hosting with Brian Mullins. And so, Robbie, are you there, brother?
I'm here, Zen. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's a great honor and a great pleasure, and it was also a true blessing to be able to meet you just recently. But before we go there, I would like you to give out your contact information, where people can go to listen and find your work, and also, if you would, talk just a little bit about the upcoming conference, and of course, we'll go into it more later.
Sure. Yeah, my YouTube channel is Celebrate Truth, just the two words, Celebrate Truth. And you can find pretty much all the content that I put out over the last 2 years. And you can go to celebratetruth.org is the official website where you can learn more and find out about my DVDs, specifically Scientism Exposed, which the sequel is coming out soon, and we'll definitely be talking more about that because meeting up with you, you provided some amazing interview footage and some great insight in making it what it is. So I'm excited to release that coming up here in November. And on the conference, it is November 9th and 10th. So next month, it's about 27 days away. I'm watching the counter tick down. It's really becoming real now, but it's absolutely going to be phenomenal. It's going to be well over 500 people. There's media coming in from Australia. You got the Sydney Herald coming in, the New Yorkers coming in. We've got a crew from Germany, Dubai, pretty much very international, I guess, living up to the name Flat Earth International Conference. So being able to put that on. And unfortunately, Brian Mullen will not be a part of it. If anyone, you had mentioned that we were both putting it on,
okay.
But Brian has kind of backed out, and a lot of people have asked, about what happened, with Brian Mullen. And really, it's just personal. It really wasn't Flat Earth related or anything. It's just personal reasons. He had to take a step back, but keep praying for him and his family. But the show will go on, and we're looking to do something really amazing and make history in NC in November.
I absolutely believe that this is going to certainly be a catalyst for a great awakening with regard to many different issues, scientism, the cosmology, geocentricity, the Bible, so much. And I know that a lot of people are excited and, like you, are counting down the days because it's coming up quickly. And I know that you are busy working on Scientism Exposed, and yes, we did recently get a chance to meet, and so let's talk a little bit about that. I know that you've been traveling probably the world, if not just the United States and other parts, and meeting others and gathering film. And so if you would, can you talk a little bit about your experiences with putting forth and gathering the material for this new documentary, some of the people that are on, and as far as the contents and anything that you can share?
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, when it came to Scientism Exposed too, I wanted to kind of get out there and meet up with people and, ask these hard questions and get into other areas of science. So I was very privileged to be able to meet up with Dr. Aaron Judkins. On YouTube, he goes by Forbidden Paleontology. Anyways, he's done a lot of undercover things, archaeology. He was on Mount Ararat looking for a Noah's Ark. He's done excavations all over. Specifically, though, in when it came into Texas, that's where this kind of activity was happening. So I headed down to Texas, and that was kind of my first leg of the trip for filming for Scientism Exposed too. So I was able to kind of meet up with Dr. Aaron Judkins, going through that, and you're going to see a lot of incredible stuff that he's brought forward. Definitely getting into the lies when it comes into evolution, when it comes to the idea that dinosaurs are a lot younger than what we're being taught, the cover-ups that are going on. So I really focused on the first part of Scientism Exposed too, really dealing with biological, getting into these type of sciences where it transforms more into the cosmology, later on in the film. But it was really amazing to be able to sit down and talk with him and get to meet him. And then also Joe Taylor that goes that's done incredible work, definitely uncovering a lot of the lies when it comes to the flood, when it comes to the fact that we're going from basic to complex, where things in the past were very, very complex. But one of the big interesting things was the hiding of giants, all of the different finds that they're finding. And again, this is what validates the Bible. I mean, everyone's familiar with the story, David and Goliath. And I mean, the Bible's very clear. I mean, it's as literal as it can be. There were giants. So I mean, from a biblical point of view, you have to look at the fact that, we would see, some, evidence of this at some point. And sure enough, it's been, there's been evidence all over the earth. And again, he's done some extensive research on there. He's brought some great insight. He's actually going to be at the conference. Now, he's not fully 100%, on board with enclosed cosmology, but he's very intrigued. He's very open. He's coming to learn. He's going to definitely talk. So again, I wanted people that were part of the project that maybe not necessarily agreed 100% with one another, but they were all kind of united in the fact that, listen, there's some major lies with scientism. So it was really incredible. I was able to sit down with Rob Skiba and Rick Hummer, as well as John Gabrielson, that was doing the conference in Texas that I was invited to speak at. So getting them and getting all the different takes, it was really amazing. But then going into the second leg of the journey, I was going to be traveling. I was doing some filming in New Jersey. I was heading into Atlanta, and from Atlanta I was going over to Alabama, because the plan was that I was going to be meeting up with Pastor Dean Odell. Pastor Dean Odell has been very outspoken lately, with his church, the whole church, talking about flat Earth and enclosed cosmology, and he's brought a lot of great insights. So, and we've got to know each other, over the last year or so. So I definitely wanted to meet up with him. Well, when I landed in Atlanta, because the plan was we were going to rent a vehicle, we were actually flying back out from Atlanta back to Canada. So I said, well, let's maybe get a hotel there, or we'll head to Alabama. I wasn't sure. So when we landed, I just kind of threw out a thing and I said, hey, does anyone want to meet up? Any flat earthers around? And I didn't really hear anything. We started heading towards Alabama. Now we got into Alabama, and all of a sudden I looked at my Facebook, and someone said Zen Garcia, right? And I'm like, yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, I was at the debate. And maybe he's by Atlanta. I wasn't 100% sure. You and I have talked before, but I wasn't quite sure exactly where you lived. So called you up, and we kind of Google mapped it real quick, and we're about 2.5 hours away. So I looked at my cameraman. I said, you want to do it? It was about, I think, 3-4 in the afternoon when we arrived in Alabama in the hotel. And we weren't doing anything that night. We were going to wake up in the morning and shoot and meet up with Dean at his church. So we're like, hey, we're just kicking it back tonight. Let's do it. So we jumped in the car. We traveled like almost 3 hours because we got kind of misdirected in Atlanta a couple of times with our GPS. So we ended up getting, I think at your place, what time did we arrive at? Around 10?
Yeah, I think it was right around 10.
Yeah, it was around 10 o'clock. But it was awesome to meet with you. And then we got you down. And to me, it was so organized in the sense that we were praying, and we wanted for sure, myself, to have the right people on this project. And it was beautiful just how God just brought it all together, especially with just, the odds of being able to be that close, getting a hold of you that quick, and that you were free and we were able to meet up. So it was a real honor and pleasure to finally meet up with you. We've done shows and we've talked before, but it was awesome to get you on camera and really talk about a lot of these deceptions, not just with cosmology, but getting into evolution, but going further and figuring it out. Where is this heading? What is the direction? Why are they leading us? What's the spiritual agenda behind it all? And I think that you really elegantly, put it down. And like I said, I think people are going to be really impressed because we're pretty much in the final stages, just going into mastering. And I think that people are going to be really intrigued with how it's all mapped together and the great insight that you brought to the film.
Well, I really appreciate that. And, I do give all glory to the Most High for, bringing it all together and allowing it to be ordained in that way, and giving me the opportunity to be part of the program. And for those that have not seen or reviewed Scientism Exposed the first, you can find it on Robbie's YouTube channel, and it is a deeply profound and very well done documentary. And I know the people that I have shown it to that are not even familiar with this topic or anything with regard to the questioning what we have been told and indoctrinated into all of our lives, that it was very interesting and something that intrigued them to do further research. And so I think you succeeded in that manner. And so can you talk about, because there's a question from Progressive in the chat room with regard to just scientism and question marks. So can you explain a little bit about scientism and how you approached it in the first documentary, and if you would, a little bit about how you and what you're going into with the second?
Sure. Yeah. And the idea behind Scientism Exposed was to really show the difference between the two, science and scientism. I went on the record saying that, I have no problems with science. I mean, I love science. True science is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with it. But what the problem is much of what is being taught, especially when it comes to the origins, when it comes to a lot of the different sciences, it's moved into scientism, where it's become a religion. It's become, a belief system. And if you even try to even bring evidence, true scientists are scared to death to bring out evidence that they're finding because they're going to get fired. There is something really sinister going on with this. So I opened the film Scientism Exposed, showing, and telling the difference between this is what science is, and here's what scientism is. And scientism, like I said, is nothing close to science. So what I propose to people is say, listen, if most of what you believed in your life, if you found out that most of what you believed was the truth because it was science, if it was scientism, would you rethink things? And I think that's what happened. And my goal for Scientism Exposed was to really gently just approach the topic where if there was one thing that got people thinking, going, that's interesting, I want to look into that more. It was really meant as a catalyst to get them to start doing their own digging, to do their own investigation, to go further. It was a real introductory piece that I wanted to be very subtle in the sense, but I wanted to show that definitely this is going on. They're admitting it. They're telling you. And again, a lot of the stuff where people think, well, no, it's rock solid. I mean, evolution's been proven. It's 100%, correct. And it's not. It's a theory, just like the theory of the theory of relativity or the theory of evolution. These are theories. This is like a consensus, and this consensus has formed, especially when you get into the biological sciences, when you get into like Darwinism. And if you even try to rock that, it's like the big boys group. I mean, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to lose your funding. You're going to lose your job, or even worse. So the thing is, it's moved in now at true science. They have no place for true science. But again, this was always the plan. The plan was to hijack something that basically everyone knew was the truth. It was reality. You do something that's empirical. You test it, you observe it, you repeat it. This is what science is, and science is wonderful. But that is not what's going on anymore. Now it's theoretical sciences. Now it's just, proselytizing it, different things, when it comes to the universe. I mean, they propose different things about, gravity waves they see, 18 billion light years away. I mean, what kind of lens sees that distance? I mean, when you hear the talk of people talking about 1 light year, understand they talk, say 14 light years away or whatever. 1 light year is 7 trillion miles. That's trillion. That is an insane amount. Now ask yourself the question, what kind of lens can see that far? And not only that, they're saying they're seeing in the past. So when you start digging, and that's what Scientism Exposed did, they started showing them in their own words. It started showing how, again, there's a lot of things that, sure, it's a belief. If you want to believe it, go ahead. But it's not science. It's scientism.
Right. Absolutely. And also, we likewise support real science as well, which is why we put that whole reward as far as the Flat Earth Challenge out there. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to sacredwordpublishing.net and click on the Flat Earth Challenge. And basically, we just asked anybody that can prove either that through 2 verifiable and that can be repeated scientific experiments that either there is true measurable curvature according to the scientific formula for determining and measuring that curvature, or that the Earth is moving in excess of 100 miles an hour, that we will gladly reward somebody that can verify that, as far as the real science. If you can confirm that, you can win the money, which, in my opinion, in having examined and studied, looked into some of what Robbie is bringing forth and talked about in his work, in my opinion, and the reason I became a non-believer with regard to the indoctrination of the globe model and the Copernican system, is that I'm not able to find curvature or measure it, and it's very plain that anybody across the world can go and look and see things beyond what is said to be possible according to curvature, that we're seeing islands, monuments, the Statue of Liberty, skylines, lighthouses, things of that nature, out beyond what should be possible according to curvature. And so, and then the other thing is that the Earth is in no way moving at 1,037 miles an hour faster than the speed of sound or bullet shot from a 45 caliber or 22 caliber gun. Robbie?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's the reality of it. Is a lot of this stuff, cannot be verified. You can't run it through the scientific method,
Right.
and that's real empirical science, and that's what true science is. And a lot of people are going out and they're becoming scientists themselves. They're going out, they're doing the experiments, and the results are just not turning up the way it should. So you hit it for sure when you talked about there is no scientific experiment to prove the curvature or the movement of the Earth. I mean, we are not moving. I mean, it seems crazy to a lot of people because, we've seen all those pictures and we, seen all these things. But really, when you start and think about it, if you want to say, hey, this is science, you can believe that you're flying around the universe all you want, but don't say it's scientific.
Right. Yeah, because it's not verifiable. It's not repeatable. You cannot confirm it through the scientific method. It's all, as you said, theoretical. It's all postulations and cannot be verified in any manner. So no matter what you think about the shape of the Earth and whether we are living in an enclosed system, most certainly we are not spinning once daily as we annually orbit around the sun. That whole model, the Copernican model and the heliocentric system, all of that can be thrown out the window, and something has to, as far as truth, has to replace it, and we are, having to determine and examine what that may be.
Yeah, I mean, for so many people, like I said, it's tough to come to the topic at first, but you have to look at it with an open mind, just start looking into it. Don't just shrug it off or brush it off. I mean, you have to just really start digging and ask these hard questions because, I mean, this is what a lot of us are doing. Even outside of the biblical model, I mean, there are people that really haven't even come to that understanding yet. They've come to the understanding that, yeah, we were created because they realize the lies of being taught that we're just an accident. We're just a random accident, from a big bang that, exploded from nothing. And this is what Scientism Exposed really runs through. And I think it wakes up a lot of people to the fact that, well, wait a minute, I've been believing this, but it's not really scientific, so wait a minute, maybe there is something going on, because why wouldn't they want true investigation? Why wouldn't they want the evidence if it's supported either way? They would just want the truth, but they don't want the truth. They want to cover up. They want to hide things. They want to keep with their paradigm. They want to keep with their agenda because, again, it's not just men trying to suppress things. It's a spirit behind those men. And again, there's something a lot sinister and darker going on behind the scenes. And we're told very, very, very plainly, in the Bible that the God of this world, is running things, and the world's ways are not what God has in mind, and that's really what we're dealing with here. Is we're dealing with a power that is basically an operation to basically take people away from the idea that they're created, that they are special, the whole notion that people would rather believe they came from nothing rather than a loving creator. This is the levels of where we're going in society. And scientism has been the one brilliant move, I believe, that Satan has used, because he didn't masquerade it as another religion, another belief system, maybe even just opposing God. He basically masqueraded it under science. And it was so hard for people to understand the fact that really what happened was it became a religion. He could push his agenda and no one would even blink twice because, again, this is science. We don't question science. Science is reality, right? We're here because of science and all this. So again, it's like a Trojan horse that moved in. And what scientism is doing now, it's validating everything. So everything that's being tried to be destroyed, whether it's the morality, whether it's the gender, whether it's the way things were created in the created order, when we're getting into creation, everything is now getting distorted from the creation to the creations. And this is scientism that's validating it and making it move a lot further along and a lot faster on the timeline, because people are not questioning it and thinking twice because, again, the scientists said so.
Well, there was a point where science was confirmation of what was observable. and that there was integrity, and the scientists that were searching and gathering knowledge and sharing it with the world, it was based upon what was true. And so when science it, it gained a reputation for being an authority on truth, then that's when it was ripe to be swayed and taken over and controlled from the top down, as Satan so often does. And then the leaven was inserted, and that's when science really became scientism. And in my opinion, it all ties back to the whole Isaiah 14, where Lucifer, Satan said, "I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." That part of subjecting and counterfeiting the cosmology and other aspects of truth and knowledge was in order to do this in being like the Most High. That he, as the Masonic sun god, most certainly has now settled the sun as the preeminent body within the cosmology, and the earth, which we know that everything has been made, and that the luminaries move in circuit above the earth, and that it is the focus of the creation, but it has now been subjugated and made just a servant of the solar system and one of the planetary subjects of the sun god, Helios. And so that's part of this whole Masonic counterfeit theology and religion, which has been now put into place. And that there's, as you said, a more sinister agenda, because it's leading to what we talked about in the new the second part of Scientism Exposed, the strong delusion, and the next aspect of the agenda, which in my opinion is tied to the whole ancient alien phenomena going on right now, and the assertion that the fallen angels, the ancient aliens, the extraterrestrials are our creators, and that they're coming back to save us from ourselves. Can you comment on that? And then I'd like to ask you about the last part of the first Scientism Exposed, because the way that you ended it was perfect, and I'd like to mention that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really goes down to, getting into all of these things with the Scientism Exposed. It was set up in such a way to really provoke these questions and get people thinking about, what is really going on. And there is something sinister. And you brought up the whole alien, deception. And I mean, I've been following that for a long time, years and years and years. But really, how you really know exactly this is the way it's going is because, again, scientism comes in and validates it. I mean, it might be something, it might be far-fetched. You might have a theory on your hands. But when you start seeing science come in and saying, yeah, absolutely. You've got, I mean, I have a clip, of Bill Nye saying that it's more feasible that we came from Martians than Adam and Eve. So again, this is the whole idea, is that they are pushing this. Yeah, Dawkins talked about the fact that, somewhere in the universe, there's a more evolved species that probably seeded us, and they've been watching us. And so again, you have scientism validating it. I see scientism validating everything, whether it's the transgendered, with the whole LGBT agenda. Now science is moving in and saying, yeah, that's right. We just did a test and scientifically it's proven, and it's like, they don't show you any evidence. They don't show you the fact that, all the scientists will come forward and say, when it comes to genders, you're either XX or XY, but they'll say, nope, we're many genders now. We tested it with science, but they never show the evidence. So what I'm saying is scientism moves in with everything. And
Hold on, Robbie.
Sorry.
We're at break.
Oh, okay.
We'll be right back, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody. I want to give you a chance to finish your thought, and then I'll ask you that next question that I was wanting to bring up.
Sure, yeah. And I was just kind of concluding by saying that, yeah, you have scientism validating this, and what greater way to get the world to wage war against God is basically convince them that there's an outside threat coming. You have multiple sources of people talking about how it would be a perfect way to band the world together in unity. And I think this is going to be one of the big deceptions in more of a technological, scientific worldview. And in order to basically pull that off, you need a Big Bang heliocentric type paradigm. in order to actually even, have that idea set in people's minds that there's millions of life forms out there. We're indoctrinated so much with the media, and you get into sci-fi, and I think people are just being completely prepped for the grand deception that's going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my opinion, that is tied into the biblical warning on this strong deception for those that love not the truth, and that could deceive even the very elect if it were possible. And that, again, that's tied into Satan being like the Most High and establishing himself, as the Masonic sun god, and then the whole thing with regard to the alien Antichrist, and his coming upon the world stage. That all these things, in my opinion, are dependent upon and based upon the scientism as far as the Darwinian heliocentric worldview and the foundation that all of that established for, that we evolved as monkeys, and now the missing link is because the ancient aliens came here and seeded us and left so long ago, but are returning again later. And that all of that, as you said, these scientists themselves, and even the Vatican, they've set up this whole department to welcome the returning gods, and all of that has been put forth in the movies and Hollywood. The Ancient Aliens series, it's the most popular show worldwide, it seems, and it most certainly is espousing exactly what you and I have been warning about for years now.
Yeah, and in order to have, ancient aliens, in order to have aliens at all, you need, a Big Bang evolutionary paradigm. The fact that there'd be, species in the universe that would be highly evolved, more evolved than us. Some would be less evolved. The likelihood based on probably, getting into the math. So again, they have this all figured out. Satan is basically, as a Trojan horse, moved in with scientism, and is just validating all these things. The agenda is being completely set, and scientism is one of the strongest ways to secure that, in cement, where people will not actually question it, because it's not a opposing belief. It's not even a differing belief. It's science. It's truth. It's fact. There is no debate. That's what they tell us. But we're finding that in a lot of the things, definitely as they push the scientism, there is a debate, and they don't want to have it because they know they have nothing to stand on.
Right, absolutely. In your first documentary, which I thought it was most excellent, the entire thing, but specifically the way that you ended it, and I believe it was you had your wife reading this narrative about Christ and the hope, and how this all also ties into the scientism and the fakery, the counterfeit system, and how you basically brought hope back into all of it, because so many people believing the deception, and those that are coming out of scientism that believe we evolved as monkeys, or that the extraterrestrials seeded us, they don't know or understand the promise, the blessed hope of Christ and his return, and the whole message and his mission, and dying to extend forgiveness of sins and giving us chance for salvation and eternity with him. And the way that you ended it was most certainly superb. But can you speak just a little bit about that, if you can remember anything with regard to the specifics? Because she just laid it out beautifully, and it was touching, deeply endearing.
Well, yeah, no, and it was, put together, based on making sure that at the end, there was hope, and that really, when it comes to this investigation, whether you're exposing any of the world's lies, when people wake up to the reality that they have indeed been lied to their entire life, they've rested on something, they've laid their hope in something that they believe was truth and reality. And again, for a person to lose their entire worldview, is very scary.
Mm-hmm.
But when they at least come out of that, they need to find out, because they need to know, if they're saying, okay, wow, I was lied to, there is a creator, they tried to hide God. Well, who is God? Who is,
Yeah.
and the reality of how much He cares. The plan, the integral design, like everything of worth and value comes back. But it is important to direct to the true creator of creation. And the Bible is very clear that it's Jesus.
Amen.
I mean, it clearly says that in the beginning, right? And again, that's the intriguing part of this whole mystery when it comes to, wow, there's a creator and there's so many people waking up to this knowledge. But, they'll look at Jesus, they'll say, oh, this or that. And I just implore people, really look into it, because it's so strange, like no one debates whether Julius Caesar existed, but everyone's like, well, Jesus, maybe he didn't exist. He's always the one that people point. No one goes around and says that Buddha might have not existed, right? But they'll say that about Jesus. When it comes to the Bible, they'll say the same type of things. Oh, I don't know, it's corrupt, it's this, that. But no one says that other literature, other books in history, nothing gets an attack like the Bible. It's been the most hated book, yet it's the bestseller in the world, sort of thing, right? So there's something intriguing about it. It truly is God's word. It's living, sharper than a two-edged sword. This is the reality. But again, it's important in the gospel. The good news is there is good news. As wicked and as awful as this earth is, and this system, we're visiting. We're here. We're here. God has a plan for each one of us. And it's important that people, realize that. But again, this is a limited, it's like I explain to people all the time. Think of all the pain and suffering that you've experienced in your entire life. In when you take eternity, forever, it's like a bee sting. Everything that you've endured in your 80, 90, 100 years living on earth, it will be like a bee sting compared to eternity, right? So when you look back on it, it really won't be that bad. But again, the hope that lies is very important when it comes down to the reality. So again, I did the same thing with Scientism Exposed too. While we're going to some deep, dark, hideous type things and seeing how dark this agenda gets, there is a very incredible, powerful ending, that happens at the end. And I'm really happy with it. I really think that it's going to move a lot of people. And again, it really comes down to the gospel. There is good news in this. And again, it's freely offered. It's a free gift. No one's going to force you. No one's going to tell you, what to do. This is between you and your maker, right? And it's important to spend the time and really look into it. If you have been lied to by your teachers, by the system, by the media, by the news, understand that it's not like these guys are all in on lying on you. There's a spirit that works behind them. And if they're so insistent to keep you away from the truth, when you realize the true creator, the truth of the Bible, your whole world is going to change, and you will be changed for eternity.
Yeah, and that's the other amazing thing with regard to this whole knowledge and this particular paradigm, is that this particular truth, it also confirms the Bible as the inspired word of God. And that once you understand that the cosmology that is revealed therein, and that also that we were made in the image of God, that the earth was created specially for us as place of habitation, and that there's nothing else like it in the entire universe, then things, your perspective on where you are and who you are, deeply change, and your relationship to the creator and the creation also change. And then when you understand those profound truths are encoded in the Bible, when you begin to study it, and especially for those that, being anti-God and anti-Christianity, anti-Bible all of their lives, that did not believe or buy into, that think religions were all contrived in order to control and to establish a matrix for such control, that when they come to the realization that the word truly is inspired, and it had to have been inspired by the creator, who describes how he created and aligned and set up and established the creation, and that knowing that that is truth, and then you begin to study the other aspects of it, the fall of humanity, and why it was that Christ had to come into the flesh in order to redeem us, and then defeating death proves that he is the author and the holder of the keys of life and death, and that salvation comes through him. These are other deeply profound truths that can, as they have for you, myself, and others, that truth has changed our lives and has made us want to live differently, to relate with the world and everybody that we come across in our daily lives differently, that we are aspiring to following the example of our King and Lord, and to love even those that hate us and our enemies. I mean, the gospel and the message of it based upon love and the love of others and the love of our Creator, that it's such a deeply profound and such a beautiful message. And if everybody just embraced the Ten Commandments and the whole basis of loving each other and one another and caring for and being compassionate with one another, even this world, even though this is based on the duality of good and evil, light and darkness, and the merger of both here upon this plane, the heaven and hell joining together in this reality, even here this could be such a beautiful place, and it has the capacity, as we all know, that there's a capacity for such beauty and such love and such caring and compassion, that this is reflected, in my opinion, in the scriptures, and what we are led and shown in the example of the apostles and Christ, and even the church, and when it works in the way that it really should. But can you also speak about just a little bit about what it was that brought you to truth, as far as the understanding of the gospel as the inspired word of God, and how it changed you?
Are you talking about like how I got like saved like back in the day?
Yeah, just what brought you, because those that truly are saved, our lives are completely different. I know myself that I was running rampant and living completely in the world, and just being sinful, and without even realizing, just doing as thou wilt, which is the whole law of the Satanism and the whole satanic thing, but just
Yeah.
being in the world. Yeah, if you would just.
Yeah, I was one of those guys, growing up. I mean, my life changed at the age of 21. But prior to that, I was one of those type of people that I was the last person on earth that you would ever expect to be one of those Bible thumpers, or even a
Right.
guy that would set foot in the church. So again, my life was absolutely radically, completely changed. And I really, like I said, it wasn't even my doing. It was something that was completely ordained to happen. And really, it was kind of in a way that, God wasn't going to let me go away. So really, it's a long story, but I can sum it up. There was
Yeah.
a friend when I was about 20 years old, I got to know and stuff, and he just kind of seemed a little bit different, but he was cool. We were hanging out and stuff, and I'd be in the clubs, drinking and stuff, and
hmm
then we'd go out and chat afterwards and stuff. So I'd be like, "Come on in," No, it's okay. I'll just wait outside. I'm like, "All right, whatever, who cares?" And I would go out of the bar. I'd jump in the car, and we go around. We just got along really good. We just clicked, right? It was just one of those things. Like he became my best friend and stuff. And, he wasn't like preachy or anything. I really didn't know anything until probably about 3-4 months, really when we really started hanging out a lot. And then one night we were sitting talking. He's like, it's pretty late. He's like, I got to go because I got to get to church tomorrow. And I'm like, you go to church? I go, your parents make you go to church? He's like, no. He's like, I want to go to church. I'm like, what? Like I thought for sure, like his parents, because he lived with his parents. So I thought for sure it's his parents dragging him to church, right? He's like, no, I want to go. And I'm like, what do you mean you want to go? Anyways, we proceeded to talk and got into, a bunch of discussion. I wouldn't call myself like an atheist, but I was a pretty militant agnostic, right? I'd
Yes.
really give Christians a run for their money. And if
Right.
anything, I'd pretty much ridicule. I mean, I got to a point where I was managing a few restaurants, and I took pride in seeing if I could make people, cry. I mean, there were a couple women that, I would kind of come down on so hard with some of the things they were doing. And I thought it was just so stupid. It's like, what do you mean you're going to wait until you have, until you're married to have sex, kind of stuff, right? I just was so foreign to my lifestyle. So I was pretty vicious with Christians. So I definitely was like the last person. But what happened was that night we got into a very long discussion, and we got into eschatology, and it really intrigued me because he was bringing up headlines. He was talking about different things that the Bible talks about, and it was there, and it just really intrigued me. It just kind of sucked me in. And I was listening intently about, getting into Revelations, and he was getting into like the mark and other things like this. But then I remember it was probably about 3 hours into the conversation. we actually ended up talking that whole night, and we went for breakfast, and then he ended up going to church, and I just went to bed. But the thing was that we got talking about a bunch of stuff, and I said to him at one point, I said, well, it's okay. I'm all good. I believe in God. He's like, it's not enough just to believe. Right. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, you have to have a relationship. And that was just foreign to me. Right. Like, well, what do you mean? Right. So he proceeded to tell me what that kind of meant, the difference between just believing in God. Because again, I was getting kind of not scared, but I was kind of like, oh, it's okay. I'd be fine. I'm a good person kind of thing. Right. So anyways, I went to sleep that night. Next day, I kind of just did my own thing. And I was out Monday, Tuesday clubbing and stuff. Wednesday, I was sleeping over at my parents' place. And it was about 3 a.m. or whatever. I woke up, and all I remember is there was like this presence around me, and I basically just lifted my hands and said, I'm coming to you. That's all I remember. I went back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up, and I was sitting there. I was on a couch, and I looked on the shelf, and there was all these VHS tapes. My parents had this old VHS player, and all these VHS tapes, and they were all kind of, all the spines were in there. One was glowing, and it was Jesus. Wow. It was the film Jesus. It was actually glowing. It actually glowed with they had a whole row of all these like VHS tapes. I grabbed it. I just threw it in because we had been talking about Jesus. And for the first time, he explained things a little different than I knew about this babe in a manger, the Son of God. It became a little different for me. So I grabbed it. It was glowing. I went up almost robotic. I grabbed it, put it in the VCR. I sat down, glued, watched the entire Jesus film. And at the end, I got on my knees and I just gave my life. I said, I just repent, like I go, just take my life, because again, even after that discussion, when he had told me all that, I still went back to my ways. And it wasn't until something happened that evening when I woke up, don't even know what happened, but all of a sudden, this VHS tape is glowing. I grabbed it. So it was almost like, I'm going to help you along a little bit, brother. I'm going to help you, son. I'm going to show you, and then after that, I broke down in tears. I was on my knees and I said, wow, what a wicked life I've lived, the pain. Yes. And I remember when I got saved, I remember having to find a couple of these girls that I'd actually made cry. And I remember, because I wanted to repent for it, make restitution, that type of thing. But I remember I ran into one, and it was at a church I was at. And she said, it's okay, I was praying for you. So it was pretty amazing how it all came around. But then finding out all these people that had been praying for me, because, like you in the world, being vicious. But I mean, I was into sex, drugs, rock and roll, but I lived a wicked, sinful life. I mean, I would laugh at people that would even go to church. I mean, how stupid of a thing. But here's the interesting part about the whole thing. Why I moved away from church, because I grew up in a household where my parents weren't so much Christian, but they were religious in the sense that it's a good thing for the family to do. Right. So I was forced to go to church. But one thing was that when I got into sciences, it became more ridiculed because, it was even my father that I'd have talks with. I'd be at Sunday school and he'd be like, how do you fit all the animals in an ark? I mean, think about it logically, right? What about climates? What about polar bears? Blah, blah. So it was eventually science that actually got me thinking that this is ridiculous, right? These are just fables. These are fairy tales. Right. But it was the whole scientism that got me to doubt it. But when I came around, when I got saved, and I started looking into the validity of the ark and seeing the construction and seeing how big it is and seeing all these things, everything fit together. And what's amazing, Zen, and you brought this up before, is this investigation and exposing all the lies of evolution and Big Bang cosmology. It is time and time again proving that the Bible has been right all along. We just chose to ignore it.
Right. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. And I think it's such an important thing for this generation because, in my opinion, I do believe we are the fig tree generation and that we are near the end of days. That certainly with all the insanity that's going on, like as in the days of Noah, with the GMO and all the craziness that's happening, the weather manipulation, the genetically modified food, the vaccines, that unless the days be shortened, there should be no flesh left, in my opinion. And so, and because of that, there's so many people that are hopeless, and there's so many people that have abandoned the churches and that have left because they're not receiving the truth. And then, in my opinion, many of these churches have been basically, they're involved in idolatry now. The mainstream churches have been taken over by the idolatry of scientism and the things that have been the counterfeit system, the cosmology, the calendar, all these different things, the fake holidays, the pagan holidays, the worship of, things like Easter and Christmas and those kind of things. But anyways, all of this has gotten the mainstream church involved in idolatry and um, basically bound before these fake gods without ever realizing it. And now so many people are ripe to just bend the knee to the returning ancient aliens, believing them to be the new age saviors of humanity and that they're coming to redeem us. And so all of this is coming to light in this time now. And so many of these kids that have been raised and educated in these Darwinian, as far as, that we evolved in monkeys, and if that doesn't make sense to them, then the whole thing that the ancient aliens seeded us a long time ago and then left, well, then that fills in that gap, and that makes complete sense to them. And so that's their, that's the neoteric theology. That's the new aspect of, as far as the astronomers being the priests of Baal. And so we're seeing all this coming to light, and so many kids and teenagers being hopeless. There's such a huge suicide rate, such grand depression now, and they're looking to, like, go ahead.
Sorry, and that's what's intriguing. I mean, bringing up this topic, what I find really incredible is you would think they would go to all extensive, work to actually, fool us with transitional fossils, right? I mean, how hard would it be for the consensus to get together, do it, to pull it off? But here's the reason why they haven't done it, is because they need the missing link, because it's going to be fulfilled later. So I used to wonder, I'm like, wait a minute, why don't they just come up? I mean, we know of hoaxes like Lucy and Piltdown Man and stuff, but really on a whole concerted effort, could they not just really show, thousands of transitional fossils of every type of species and just secure it? The reason is they're not, is because they need it open. So the missing links that we all laugh at, we used to sit there and say, you got a bunch of missing links, these are big problems in evolution, which, while it's good, it was also part of their play, is because they're just sitting back because the alien agenda will actually fill in the missing gaps. And that is when it will become 100% secure. There is no debate. It is completely case closed. There is no debate. It's 100% confirmed. Here it is. So yeah, that's what I think this is why it's such a huge deception, why so many people can't wrap their head around it. I mean, I don't even sit there and say, I'm not even a smart guy, but what I'm saying is I rely on not my wisdom, but the Most High, in the sense that I basically say, listen, everything. I mean, I was even repenting for the fact that I was clinging to NASA and science. Even though I was against evolution, I was still holding on to Big Bang cosmology, right? I was just attaching God to the bang, right? Like you say, nothing exploded. I say God said, let there be light, So I was just attaching him to that paradigm, which is very intriguing that so much of the church did that, and we just stopped there. And I think that was part of the plan as well, too, because it's not that they were trying to deceive anyone. They just wouldn't look into it further because they would just laugh it off and say, God created everything. Now let's move on to this whole notion that we came from apes, right? So for me, it was the same way. I focused all my attention on, evolution. While the fact was, well, where did evolution even come from? And when we follow it all back to the root of it all, the umbrella lie, which I say all the lies sit under, this is why this umbrella, the granddaddy lie of all lies, is what we're dealing with now. I do not think, and I don't know anyone that could challenge me on that there would be any bigger lie than this. Even hypothetically, if people are listening and they're not on board, can you think of anything crazier than everything that you believed about your entire existence when it comes to the world, the sun, moon, and stars is a lie? There's nothing bigger. There's nothing bigger. So we're dealing with basically this, and this is why the spiritual attack is happening. That's why this is going to be quite the process. And for me, with Scientism Exposed 2, I wanted to have people, continue on the journey, because I eventually, with the third installment in 2018, I want to get them to the grand lie. I want to get them, it's just right in their face, but I didn't want to scare people off by saying the Earth's flat. They're like, oh, it's a bunch of crazy flat earther, I did not. I mean, the first one doesn't even mention flat Earth. There's not one person that mentions flat Earth in the documentary. So it's been a great resource. So many people have told me that they've used it as a resource to reach people with the gospel, sure, but also to stop clinging on to scientism. Stick with science, great, but hey, you're going to find out that a lot of the stuff that you're holding on to is not scientific. So it's been a real incredible tool, and I believe that's why God called me to do it, is that I would have something in place that would bring glory and honor to him, but it would be in a way that would basically allow people to go on that journey slowly, not too much in their face, just follow along on this installment this documentary series, and by the third one, if you've followed that far, you're ready for, you want to hear it all, right? But maybe someone gets to the first one. So a lot of people are putting out documentaries, and I've done it myself. I have The Global Lie. I put out Impossible. Yes. These ones are right in your face. But Scientism Exposed 2 was created more for a mainstream type audience, a tool, evangelistic tool, but also a tool to get into this topic when we're getting into flat Earth and closed cosmology. This is heavy duty stuff. I mean, even for me, I was willing to research anything or look into any kind of topic. I laughed at this topic for a year.
Hold on, brother.
Yeah.
Hold on. We'll be right back, everyone. Hello, we'll pick it up on the other side.
I hope you're well.
Back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. I have a special guest with me this evening, Robbie Davidson of Celebrate Truth, who's also the host for the International Flat Earth Conference coming up here November 9th and 10th, of which so many people are looking forward to it. And I know myself that the three of the girls that work for me with Sacred Word Publishing are very excited for the conference and the gathering, and looking forward to discourse, conversation with others of like mind. Because this has been, as we were talking about in previous hour, a deeply profound truth, and one that when you understand that we've been lied to with regard to everything that we are taught with the cosmology and how the system is set up and worked, how the earth is spinning once daily as it annually revolves around the sun, that all of that is a lie and it's a fabrication based upon something that was put forth and then never verified, and has been challenged really by different individuals which are not mentioned, the different scientific experiments that have come forth, which have also verified the premise that the earth is not moving and that there's no measurable curvature. Those things are not spoken about. And so these things are being kept in the dark in order to fabricate the lie which they have built more and more upon, which continues even in this day with the whole ancient alien lie being based upon the Darwinian Copernican system. And so I think you were wise, brother, to do as you did with regard to Scientism Exposed and piquing the interest of individuals and going gradually, because as you said, it is a tool now for people to open and to bring others that have been unwilling to examine or open themselves to new possibilities with regard to these kind of things, bring them and pique their interest and open them to new possibility. And so it's a really awesome thing, because again, with regard to scientism and the Darwinian Copernican heliocentric worldview, in my opinion, there's not been one larger lie which has led astray more people in this world and done more to separate people from the knowledge of their creator and from understanding that the Bible truly is the inerrant and inspired word of the Most High God than scientism. Your comment?
You're right, and I would definitely echo that sentiment for sure, and that's why I thought it was so important to really get into this topic, put together documentary films based around this, because again, there is no other religion agenda deception that has basically had so many people walk away or basically destroy God in their mind and make it look foolish, ridiculous, make it laugh at the Bible, myself included. I mean, I basically walked away from any notion or just laughed at the idea of this stupid book that a bunch of people got together and wrote. And what did they know? They couldn't even get the they couldn't get creation even right,
Yeah.
So these are the type of things, right? So science has showed us, and again, part of that evolution lie is that we're so evolved in our intelligence, we can't depend on these guys in the past. They were stupid. But the evidence supports the fact that there was incredible intelligence in the past. We're actually getting stupider with all our technology. we're actually not becoming smarter at all. The technology is doing the work for us. We're actually becoming more dumb than ever before. That's a whole other discussion. But the fact was that there was very complex, life in the past when it comes to the animal kingdom, when it comes to people's intelligence. If anything, we're downgrading. We're not accelerating. We're not actually evolving, to the next level of godhood. And this is exactly where it is. You got the biological evolution, but you got the spiritual evolution, and it's all coming together under scientism. And scientism, there's going to be some startling quotes, even getting into when you start getting into Big Bang and stuff, but it follows a lot of the Kabbalah, right? And again, there's a lot of spirituality that basically people are picking up on. Even scientists that are actually preaching a lot of this stuff are starting to go, wow, it's really intriguing how these guys, got the whole Big Bang cosmology way back then. How'd they do that? So again, this has been around for a long time. And instead of the high priests wearing robes, they're now wearing lab coats.
Yes.
Scientism is modern day magic, and that's what we're seeing today. Nothing new happens under the sun, like Ecclesiastes, tells us. And this is what is going on. So again, it's just different. It has more prestige, it has recognition, but again, it is sinister, just like it was in the past, and it's moving forward at a rapid pace. Dealing with transhumanism, getting into the agendas going forward and what they want to do for the coming battle, for the coming deception, and the entry of the Antichrist.
Yes, because absolutely, I agree with you. All that is tied to and build upon those things that we're talking about now. And so can you talk a little bit about, as far as your awakening to this, why you got involved in making the videos, and if you would, a little bit about your background, because you've had to have been doing this for a while, because you're very well skilled with creating videos and documentaries. And so can you tell us a little bit about your past and what led you into this line of work and where you gained your skill set?
Well, I mean, I've dealt with like media and marketing and advertising. That would be kind of my business background. But my hobby horse on the side was always, I was kind of an aspiring filmmaker. I was always getting my friends together and shooting, different shorts and stuff. And I always was intrigued with behind the scenes, with movies and just the entire process. And again, I would watch documentaries as I got more into the truth scene, and again, like Gons and Face Like the Sun and different things like this. And I was just like, wow, one day it would be just really cool to do that. Now, for the longest time, I was very outspoken and passionate about many issues. When it came to studying the world religions, the cults, getting into Satanism, looking into spiritual warfare, eschatology, and then looking at the world, and also when it comes to like 9/11 was a big one, for a lot of people, and understanding how sinister this world is and kind of what's going on. So I've always been outspoken, but I never really jumped on YouTube. I always thought, oh, one day could do a rant here or there, but it wasn't until this topic that basically propelled me and said it's time. And 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, is when I first got on. But I came to this topic, actually, interesting enough, from a video that was mocking it. I'm actually going to put it on my channel really soon, because I think a lot of people will be intrigued to find out the video that got me, thinking and led me to understand, wow, can you believe it, that we've been lied to? And it was really a video just basically looking at the literal interpretation of Genesis and certain verses in the Bible, and just making fun of it, showing the fact that there's a firmament and that there's water above and below, and kind of showing an illustration and making it look really silly. But then I'd be like, but that's what the Bible says. Why does the Bible say that, right? And I never looked at the firmament. And the firmament for me was a really big one, right? So when I started actually constructing it in my mind, I was saying to myself, well, wait a minute. Jesus says, let little children come to me, have faith like a child. Why would God want to deceive children? And if you were actually to read all these verses of creation to a child and say, draw what I'm telling you, what worldview would they come up with, right? And that's the reality, that when you take the literal word of God, and I would say myself, I mean, I'm a literal 6-day creationist, I would say, right? Well, wait a minute. If I'm literal there, why am I not literal over here? A lot of people like to say, well, do you say that, it says Jesus is a door, does he have hinges? And I'm like, whoa, that's a stupid argument. I don't want to entertain it. But let's just rather than jump all over the place, let's stick with creation. Because I find it very interesting when people want to play the whole literal game, right? They're going to jump all over the place. Do we take everything literal? Just for argument's sake, let's just focus on creation. Yes, everything that is focused on creation, even if it's in Psalms and it's poetic, it still illustrates something happening. For example, if I run like a gazelle, I'm doing something. I'm moving, right? So when it says the sun, it runs its course like a bridegroom. Right. So again, even if you're gonna, because some people say, what about songs? I go, I'll tell you what, I was gonna give it to you just for sake. I'll give it to you as poetry. But that poetry is conveying something. It's conveying movement, right? But let's talk about Joshua. Would you say that that happened? Well, yeah, that's historic. Okay,
absolutely.
What happened there? Right? Well, they were ignorant, really, right? It's gone so far with some ministries where they say that God didn't want to offend other cultures. That's why cosmology is not mentioned in the Bible. But anyways, I want to go back to how I came to it. So anyways, I started looking into it. It led me to watching videos, Mark Sargent. I stumbled across Flat Earth Clues, right? Because again, they were making fun of it. And at the end, they said, the Earth's flat. And I'm like, flat Earth, And I laughed at a couple of things. I'd seen videos probably 6 months prior, a year before, and off and on. I'd be like, what a bunch of morons. Anyone believes the Earth's flat? Like, you know what I mean? We proved that a long time ago. Isaiah 40, I already proved that. Look, right there, Isaiah 40, 22, right? It's a globe, right? But it led me to going, wait a minute, I'm going to look into this. So I just typed in, and once I got sucked in, I had to learn everything. But I was like, what is going on? Like, if this is true, this is so monstrous. But everything in my spirit just felt right. I wanted to question things. I wanted to come at it from a scientific standpoint, spiritual standpoint, and also a conspiratorial standpoint, in the sense that I want to connect the dots. And when I found out they were hiding certain things, like in Antarctica, things weren't adding up. I'm like, wait a minute, it was all coming clear. And again, I always tell people this, what's really intriguing, hypothetically, just as an experiment, if you're listening, you think this is nuts, try this. Try to take every creation verse literal. You know what? They don't contradict each other. They actually come together and form a perfect picture of something that basically all the cultures knew. So the fact is, it's not like we're off on a bunch of stuff or we can't figure out how that works. It all comes together. The firmament, the pillars, just everything comes together. So I was like absolutely intrigued. So, I mean, after about a week, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to tell my wife, I think the Earth is flat. She's kind of like, So I went and told her, and honestly, Zen, she actually accepted it within like 30 seconds. She said, if the Bible says it, then it's true. And I was like, no. It can't be that easy. You know what I mean? No, the Earth is flat, right? We're in a dome, I was freaking out, right? But from that, I really went and investigated. I did a lot of research. And I'd say about 2 months after that is when I put out my first video. And the first video I put out in August of 2015, after about 3 months, 2-3 months of investigating this, was on the stars. Because again, this whole, we come from stardust. Then you got Aleister Crowley saying every woman and every man is a star. You got this whole star angle and getting into the luminaries and stuff. And I was really intrigued. So my very first video I put out was just questioning, the stars and getting into it. And I started off with cosmology, dealing with the stuff that we're seeing in the sky. What if we've been lied to about that? And then quickly I started leading into the fact, like, what if everything you've been taught about this Earth is wrong? But the question is, well, why would they lie? And I get this on a lot of interviews. I did a mainstream interview for a radio station just a couple of weeks ago, for Delaware 1059. And I mean, there was caller after caller after caller asking questions. But again, it always leads back to, well, why would they lie? You have to understand that Satan is behind this whole thing. And why he would lie is because he has plans to set himself up. He needs a certain paradigm, a whole worldview set in place, and he needs to keep people away from God. And what better way to do it is to 100% convince that we're just on a spinning ball flying through space with no purpose, and we're just an accident.
Right. Yeah, and that there's no really creator, and everything's just random and just came about, just random circumstance, just evolved of, as far as evolution and all. So yeah, they totally have most of the world deceived. Revelation 12, they deceiveth most of the world, and that is what really is going on. And that's why I think the work that you're doing and things that we've been writing about, the movies that you've been creating, are so very important, and they're going to be critical for so many people, because really we are still the minority. We're like probably less than 1%, if there is more now. I don't know exactly what it is. I know, yes, there is a grand awakening and that many people are coming to this truth, but still we are just a very small speck as far as with regard to those that are awakening compared to most that are still asleep. And so it's just going to be awesome as far as afterwards, because I know that this conference is going to, a lot of people are going to meet. There's going to be connections. There's going to be, as you said, all these different newspapers and documentaries and all the people coming from all over the world, that there's going to be a lot of fruit bared from all of these efforts and all that you doing
And that's what's
in all their
amazing. And that's what's
products.
amazing
Yeah.
about this topic. And that's what's amazing about this topic is even if people aren't aware in researching it, they're all helping to discover the truth of the true
Right.
creator of creation. Now, what I find intriguing about this is there's never been a time before Zen where we came across people that were 100% convinced there's a creator, but didn't really know who the creator was. These people, are not just going around and saying, well, I'm not even sure. They're saying, no, 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 I was lied to. I am special. I was created unique. There is a creator of this created, this creation.
Right.
So we have the greatest opportunity in my mind, this is my opinion, but we're moving into one of the greatest opportunities for evangelism and witnessing that has ever happened, especially in my lifetime. I've witnessed to Muslims or witches or atheists or agnostics and whatever, but I've never run into people that are 100% convinced now that they've been lied to. There is a creator. They're just wanting to know who is that creator, right?
Yes,
and here's this opportunity to really do it because, again, you don't have to convince them, when it comes down to we've been lied to. You don't have to go on that front saying, your science teachers lied to you. They're already science lied. So who are they falling on? They're not falling on anything else. They want to know truth, and they're doing it through the scientific method. And what's the scientific method? It's basically pointing back to what the Bible says, right?
Right.
All the research on the firmament. Wow, the Bible says something about this thing, and there might be water up there. Well, what book says that there's water up there? It's the Bible, right?
Yes.
So it's almost like, and I say this to people all the time, it's like, for a while everyone focused on evolution, but I think that basically when God starts revealing his true creation to people, who could stop that? Shills can't stop that. Satan can't stop that. Nobody can stop that, right? So all they can do is convince you of lies. And that's what we're dealing with. It's like, I believe that God is allowing now the world to wake up. And again, unfortunately, the Bible says that a lot of people still won't. Even when they know the 100% truth, they still won't turn to him, which is sad. We need to keep them in prayer because there's power in prayer. But the reality is that people are waking up to the true creation, just like it says in Romans. And it says one of the greatest ways that people know of the true creator, that know of God, is through his creation. And for so long, people have never really looked at creation because they've just relied on scientism to tell them about creation. And this is what's so intriguing. It's so incredible how God can start waking people up that aren't even Christians. He can start waking people up and all of a sudden start opening their eyes, and they're all fighting for him. They're fighting for the true created order. They're just not there yet when they come to a relationship, understanding that he basically is the one. And if they just surrender their life or whatever to him, this will all come together. And again, everything in his timetable. And there's amazing stories, like a lot of people that I discuss with. I mean, a lot of people know that I'm an open Christian and stuff like that. But again, it's intriguing having these discussions. And I mean, I know there's certain people that really, aren't very public about it, but they're listening, they're watching, they're reading the Bible. God's drawing them in because, again, they're getting sucked in with the fact like there is a creator and this is the only logical one. Nothing else makes sense. I mean, you can't just create a brand new creator, for these flat earthers because it has no history. You're going to create a brand new book, people are looking for proof and evidence. So that's what's so beautiful about the Bible. I mean, ODD TV did a podcast the other day, and he was talking about the fact that he's not 100% there. He's really, really getting drawn towards it. But he says, I'm looking at the Bible. There's more manuscripts for that than any other book ever, right? And I look around, and no one's, saying that I don't believe that Julius Caesar or these literature or these, works didn't exist, but they attack the Bible. So he's getting very curious in the sense of saying, wait a minute, why do people have such a hate on for the Bible? Why do people have such a hate on for this Jesus guy? I mean, a year ago, he said, I thought Jesus was just a made-up nonsense fairy tale. But he's like, wait a minute, he's becoming more real to me. But I'll tell you one thing, when it comes to the point when he realizes that he is the true creator of creation, that all things were created by him and through him and nothing was created without him. Amen. I mean, it's going to blow his mind because, again, it's not just some creator. It's now Jesus basically that came, became a man and died, basically to provide a way because we couldn't get there on our own. We were sinful and there was nothing we could do in our works to earn our way to heaven. And I mean, what a testimony of love. And if people really understand the reality, some people look at it as barbaric and they look at it as sick, but they don't realize at the level of love. We'll never be able to comprehend that level of love. I remember I was in Bible college years ago when I first got saved. I mean, I was just on fire and I'm like, you know what? I'm going off to Bible college just to learn more, right? I went off for a year, but I remember one night we were all sitting around talking and the one question which blew our minds was, why does God love us so much?
Yes.
I mean, it rocked our mind because, again, if I was a creator and I create a bunch of ants on a hill and I realize that if I go down there and I become an ant, they're going to gang up on me and beat me up and kill me. I'm going to stomp on that anthill so fast and create another ant. Right? I just stomp on him. But he didn't stomp on us. He said, I'm
Yes.
going to go down and I'm going to get bludgeoned and I'm going to have them attack me and kill me so that I can provide a way so that they can come to me. I'm like,
Right.
wow. I mean, you can't even make that up. It's so
Right.
against anything that men could even create. People say,
Right.
oh, people made up the Bible. No, men would always put something and put them in a good light, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Bible shows men in a very low light in the sense that they need a savior. They need
Yes. Right.
help. They cannot do it alone. And God
Right.
said, hey, I'm here. Here's my hand. And do you want to reach out or not? And it's not like you need to go to church. You don't need to read the Bible 10 times a day. It's a relationship, and you can do it right
Yes.
now. You just talk
Right.
to him, and he knows what
Amen.
you're thinking. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
knows. People will say, well, what do I say? Talk to him just, like you would. The whole idea is we've got into this whole religiosity where people think that, to become, in a relationship, they have to start going to church. They got to do this. They got to do this. I tell people, I
Mm-hmm.
say, go to God and say, God, I don't want to give this up, but change
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yes. Yes.
If you believe it's wrong, change me because I can't change myself. When you
Right.
give
Right.
God permission to change your life, wow, watch out.
Yes.
You're about to
Right.
go on the wildest
Absolutely.
ride and the most amazing experience you've ever been on in your life.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Another thing too that we were talking about is the fact that this knowledge and this teaching and the fact that it's encoded in the scriptures and it's verified that the Bible is 100% prophetic, and that 1/3 of all scriptures that are still yet to be fulfilled are written for our generation. That even the book of Enoch, which also has this cosmology encoded in it, as I've verified with my ninth book, the Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. It shows that Enoch spoke about a distant generation, and that this is the generation he was writing for. And the cosmology set forth, and as affirmed by the scriptures, by the Bible, it is all coming to light now. And so, in my mind, this is all, again, verification as to that we are that generation. But the other beautiful thing is that even militant atheists and agnostics, when they come to the truth of the cosmology, they embrace not only is there a creator, but that they were special, the earth is special, and that they are having to reassess whether the Bible and the other aspects of it, if the cosmology is true, well, then everything else, you have to reconsider everything else. And so that is bringing them to closer and deeper and more intimate relationship with the Creator and with Christ, and all those things. It's a beautiful thing, and there's no other knowledge or truth or conspiracy that one can study which has done and impacted people in such profound manner as this.
Yeah, absolutely. What a brilliant deception to basically convince us that the Earth is a planet like everything else
Right.
we see up in the
Mm-hmm.
sky. And again, I tell people, I was at a conference recently and I spoke and they said it really is one of the biggest deceptions. If you get your head around that, because so many people say, well, wait a minute, everything up there is round, but we have to be round, and the whole idea of being a sphere, everything in the sky is spheres. And regardless whether you agree with that or not, the reality is that the Earth is created special, it's unique, it's different than anything that was put in the sky. And
Yes.
again, if people will get their head around that as a Christian, reading the Bible, if you go from that angle, you might start be able to see things a little bit different. But as long as you believe that basically we're on a planet, we're just a special planet, and everything else is planets, God had to create, billions of other planets because, he couldn't just have one, right? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
idea that we're the same as all these things we see in the sky is false. We are not a planet. And if you look at planet, it's a wandering star. So ask yourself the
Right.
question, are we a star? Is Earth a star? No. But again, Satan wanted to deceive the world because he's all big on becoming, the star, saying we come from stardust, make the Earth a wandering star, just like the planets, And again, we're
The
not a
stars
star.
died for us. Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, exactly. They died so we could, we could
Right.
live and forget Jesus and, just
Right.
blasphemous statements like this. But again,
Yes.
that's
Oh my
telling in the
gosh.
sense that there is something spiritual about it. And I think
Yes.
when I bring this topic up, even with people in the community that really, don't know where to look when it comes to the Creator, I say, don't you find it interesting that these guys are attacking the crucifixion? They're attacking the gospel.
Yes.
They're attacking Jesus. They're not taking pot shots at Buddha. They're not
Right.
taking
Right.
pot shots at New Age and yoga and all this. They're going after one man. They're going after one book. Don't you find that interesting? And a lot of people said, yeah, that is kind of interesting, because when you see these guys and they're trying to keep people away or trying to ridicule one thing, maybe look at that thing a little bit more carefully and say, wait a minute, why are they so against this? Why are they so against this book? Why are they so against this man? And again, because it's not a man, it is God in flesh. It is something a lot bigger than what people realize. And that's the whole thing we're dealing with. We're dealing with an adversary that basically at all cost will want to diminish, will want to destroy, and will want to completely take people away from the idea that, they were created special. And again, this is the deal. I mean, for the longest time, it was like, have all different, worship other gods, bow to this, bow to this. But he moved in very slightly, when it came to scientism, in the sense where all of a sudden it's like a Trojan horse, where all of a sudden, like you mentioned before, you had Ra, you have the Greeks, the Romans worshiping the sun, you have all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing now? I'm not saying that people are bowing down and worshiping the sun. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, don't you find it fascinating that everything revolves around that sun again, right?
Yes,
the sun is the focal. It's the one that gives life. It's the one that gives the light. And again, you hear this echoed and you kind of wait a minute. Ecclesiastes says that nothing new happens under the sun. And while they were all giving tribute to the sun, what are we doing in modern day mainstream science? We are talking about everything we see in the sky. They're all suns. We're told that stars are even suns. Like, we're talking a perversion and twisting of every single thing in the Bible imaginable. I thought, wait, maybe Satan will just take a break and he'll just twist a couple things. But no, Satan has to twist every single ounce of the Bible. He can't just be content by saying, I'm going to lie about the earth and that's it. Nope, I'm going to lie about the stars. I'm going to lie about planets. I'm going to lie about everything. And that's what I find amazing about this is he wants to create his reality. He loves to imitate. He loves to get the recognition. And rather than giving any tribute to God's true created order or creation, he wants to have homage to his creation.
Yes. Right.
And he has just made it in his mind, like the whole idea of, rising above the stars. This is what his pursuit, NASA and their idea of going to planet and the whole sci-fi narrative, this is born from Satan. And he is the only one in the Bible that wanted to be, above the stars and ascend and fly around and stuff. And again, you have to ask yourself the question, well, wait a minute. If he's
Hold on,
behind
brother.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back, everyone, for final segment. All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. Robbie, if you would, give out all of your information once more, where people can go find information about the International Flat Earth Conference, and we'll talk a little bit about that in this particular segment.
Sure. Yeah. You can go to learn all about the Flat Earth International Conference 2017 at fe2017.com, as in Flat Earth 2017.com. So yeah, just fe2017.com. You can see the people that are going to be featured, the schedule. There's a free app that you can download on your phone. We've got lots of really exciting things happening there. And yeah, we can definitely talk about a lot of really amazing stuff going to happen. And we can talk about the speakers and just what we have planned for the 2 days at the conference. I've been working pretty hard with the venue, with lighting companies, production crews, and looking to put on a pretty incredible event. The world's watching. We want to make sure that we really start to make a dent, make a lot. People will start to think. And yeah, people will always kind of ridicule it like I did, and I expect that. But when you start putting together, things that are done professionally, like when I did with Scientism Exposed 2, I've had a lot of people reach out to me based on the fact that they really paid attention to it a lot more based on the production values. So I want to make sure that with the conference, it's done well. It's put together in a way that people are really proud of. And it's a time that, people really look forward to at least once a year, that people can get together, the fellowship, the stories. And what I say for, a lot of people is I say, it's not about the 2 days. It's about what happens afterwards. And I believe that it's going to basically put things in a new light. The community is going to mature. A lot of stuff is going to happen, a lot of progress, people working together, even with differences. And I understand we all have our differences. We don't agree with one another. But one thing we do agree on is that we've been really lied to with mainstream science. And we're all trying to get into the bottom of, exposing the lies, but also, discovering the true reality of creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do, like I said, I think this will be a turning point. And a lot of people will realize that when they look back at all the documentaries that are going to come forth, the movies, all the people that are going to be live streaming, the interviews that are going to take place, there's just going to be a huge abundance, a wealth of information that pours forth following this conference, and that this will be the hinge, the link. In looking back, for a lot of people, they'll realize that for a lot of people, this will be a huge turning point in helping others to come to the truth of this. And so, if you would, yes, can you mention the speakers, when you're going to be releasing the Scientism Exposed 2, when that will be actually be playing, and also if you'll speak about the live stream and how people can tune in and gain access to that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go over a bunch of information. I want to first let everyone know that if the conference was sold out, the good news was we kind of went and through the numbers, and a couple of days ago we were able to release a few more tickets. So we released 40 tickets a couple of days ago. We're at 16 right now remaining. So if there's anyone listening that wants to go, you couldn't go before because it was sold out, we have 16 remaining tickets. This will be the last of the last. There's no more after this. We're printing everything, the signage, everything is being done by next week. So there is 16 tickets remaining. You can get them if you go to fe2017.com. If you're not able to attend this year, also at fe2017.com, if you click on tickets, you will see the live streaming options. Now, I tell people this all the time. I have a 4-man production crew coming in to do a really solid production. So the live stream is going to be an experience. It's basically going to be the next best thing. It's going to be a very enjoyable, well put together plan for the 2 days. So right now it's on the early bird price up until October 15th. So it's $17 for both days for the online stream. And after October 15th, it will go to $27. So it goes up $10 after October 15th. So if you want to jump on it, get your live stream tickets. It'll be for both days for the $17 right now for the early bird. And then after October 15th, it will go to $27. And like I said, it's going to be well worth it. Kept the price low. It's going to be a very solid production. You're going to get your money's worth on that, especially even with the ticket, the 16 remaining tickets that we were able to issue. Like I said, if you're on the fence, you're kind of thinking you want to go, I'm telling you, over 500 people, it is going to be a experience like you've never experienced, in the fact of the friendships, the people, the community, just the excitement, the media. It's going to be basically history. And again, this is what's really exciting about this, is we're making history at FEIC this year, and we'll be making more announcements for the following years and going forward. But I will be premiering Scientism Exposed 2 on the last night of the conference. So after the conference ends, it's Thursday and Friday. And after it ends in the afternoon, after dinner and everything, when people come back for the showing of Scientism Exposed 2. And then after that, we have the Flat Earth Video Awards hosted by Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer. So it's going to be a real great evening that we have planned. But yeah, the premiere for Scientism Exposed 2 will be at the conference. If you're not able to get to the conference, we have the live stream for the premiere. So if you want to watch it live with everyone else, it's the worldwide premiere happening on November 10th. And you can get $7, and it's also on fe2017.com, or you can go to my website, celebratetruth.org, and all the information is there. So I have all the links on YouTube and that sort of thing. So you'll be able to find it. But when it comes to the premiere, it's going to be really exciting for me because, like I said, you're going to be able to get to see Zen. You're going to see Rob Skiba. You're going to see Aaron Judkins. You're going to see Joe Taylor and a few others. And like I said, it's going to be really exciting. I've never really done a premiere with this many people. And like I said, this is turning out to be very large. It's only going to grow bigger, but we want to do a solid work on it this year. And we're excited for where it's going to head in the future.
Have you considered filming the premiere and releasing it as a documentary as well? I think that would be kind of cool to, kind of a background on all of your work and your efforts with the International Flat Earth Conference as well. That would be something that people would be interested in seeing, and and supporting your work in that manner as well.
Yeah, and I mean, well, the plan that I have is I'm going to be releasing a DVD of the conference with a lot of additional footage. So, for example, there'll be someone filming a lot of the stuff that happens in the evenings and other places that's not going to be part of the official stream. And I'm going to offer that as like a digital download or a DVD, as people will have a memento. They want something, as a souvenir, something like this. But there will be 2 documentary crews shooting at the conference. There's 2 Flat Earth documentaries that are in production right now. So they'll be capturing capturing a lot of that type of stuff, but I'm looking to capture, some of the stuff as well with the conference, and then being able to offer that so that people kind of feel like they're a part of the experience if they weren't there. And if they were there, it's something they can kind of remember. They can take away and go, oh, I remember that, and get other people on camera and talking and stuff. So we definitely plan on doing that. Like I said, as far as behind the scenes, I mean, for this year, probably not, but going forward, maybe we'll have room to do that. Maybe someone can follow me into next year, because next year's event is going to be double the size, and we're already basically securing everything now for next year. But the announcement will be made shortly on next year's. But I would say when we get there, if someone can kind of look at maybe, following me around or something on that, I think it's a great idea. It'd be awesome to have that documented. But like I said, I'm so busy right now with this, just even going off the international conference and Scientism Exposed 2 at the same time. My wife said, maybe next year we shouldn't do both at the same time. I'm like, nah. It's great. It's a rush, right? I like to work on deadlines. I like to kind of put this together. I probably will do the filming a lot earlier next year than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I said, this was God's timing, brother. It all worked out. And like I said, you were a part of it, and it wouldn't have happened any other way. And I'm really happy for how it all came together and just the people that were part of it. And it is going to change lives. It's going to definitely be an instrumental film, and it's going to get a lot of people looking into, well, this is the part 2. Maybe I should look at the first one. And, so it's going to get a lot more buzz on that. And I think it's going to open a discussion for a lot of people. I mean, the responses, the testimonies I get, the emails I get, people for the first time just sincerely looking into a lot of these deceptions, but a ton of people saying, you know what, going out and buying a Bible and saying, you know what, I'm taking this whole God thing real serious now. I'm taking this whole, Bible serious again. So again, for me, it's always important to come around, focus on the gospel, because really at the end of the day, if we're not really focusing on that, it's really pointless, because you can realize all the lies of the world, but if you don't get to the full truth, that's found in Christ, then you're lost. And it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. So I just implore people, regardless, whether you take my words or not, at least take some time and look into it. Seek God, draw close to God. He'll draw close to you, and that's the reality. A lot of people say, I don't really feel God. I don't know where he is. Well, you know what? Have you even draw to him? Draw to him. He will draw to you. So that's the whole idea here. And it's just having these tools in place, and especially for people that have loved ones, there's people using Scientism Exposed so incredibly, like they're putting it into church libraries. They're giving it out in schools. I mean, we have bulk orders, having it on basically at cost, so you can get multiple copies to people. But I'm telling you right now, this is an extraordinary tool. If you look at Scientism Exposed 1, it is so incredibly subtle, and it just gets people going, wait a minute. They said they went to the moon, in the 60s, and that's 250,000 miles away. And yet since then, the furthest they've been is 400 miles. That's weird. I was talking to a guy on the plane when I was filming. When I was actually coming down to Atlanta, I got talking to a guy on the plane because I was traveling, doing all this filming, and people would be like, hey, what do you do? Where are you going? Right? I'm like, I'm shooting a documentary. And the minute you say you're shooting a documentary, they want to know,
right? What is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I say scientism. What's scientism? So we get in a big discussion. Well, on one of the flights, it was a 4-hour flight. I talked to the guy, and by hour 3, I was right into flat Earth, and he was just right 100% there. That doesn't happen all the time, but this guy was ready. I assessed it.
Yeah.
We started talking about the moon. We started talking about inconsistencies, and he's like, that is weird, right? And instantly we started talking about these topics. But really, when you start probing people with these questions and wait for a while to get to the heart stuff, saying, hey, dude, did you know that the globe's a lie? He's like, what? What are you talking about? Start with basically, the inconsistencies with NASA. Start with the inconsistencies of evolution. Start with the inconsistencies and get them thinking, and then go, well, wait a minute, what's going on? And then kind of just track someone. Because I always say, on a conspiracy cycle, if someone's at JFK and they're still questioning the official story of JFK, but they're at, 9/11 happened exactly the way the mainstream media said it. They're not ready for the moon landing didn't happen. They're not ready for the Earth is flat, right? So kind of track with them. And I always say, if you're taking it from a conspiratorial type view, fine. If you're dealing with a literal biblical view, then start tracking with them. Say, hey, brother, no, let's not go all over the place here. Let's stick with creation. Why are we taking these verses, literal, but not these verses, right? And if you get to a scientific mind, someone that really, truly likes empirical science, then start really challenging on them. Say, don't you find it weird that there's no experiment to prove the spin of the Earth? Well, what do you mean? Well, show me the experiment. It doesn't exist. Really? You'd think it would. And when they start thinking, they're like, that's weird. Really? All this time? Is it weird that we don't have a picture of the Earth, or we don't have a spinning, video of the Earth? It's 2017. Why don't we have a moon
20,000 satellites, right?
Yeah, all these things. But this is when I'm talking to people on the plane, or I'm doing things, I just subtly start saying, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? And in the minute you start tracking, they go, that is kind of strange. But if they're like, no, it's not strange at all, then, don't waste your time on them, because we have this urgency that we think we have to convert everyone. We don't. We have to gauge people and see where they're at. And again, if God's drawing someone to you where they're kind of prepped, they're ready, they're like a sponge. They're like, tell me more, brother. Yeah, this is an intriguing conversation.
Right.
Like the one night that my friend, started talking to me about eschatology in the Bible and Jesus, I was drawn in. That was at a point. Before then, nobody could talk to me about it. But that night, for whatever reason, maybe it was because of him. Maybe I had respect for him. Maybe it was I don't know the reason. But all I know is that was one night that I was like, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yes.
And at that point, he did tell me more. So rather than talking our ear off, talking someone's ear off that doesn't want to hear, let's talk to the people that are like, wow, really?
Yes.
Is there any materials you have? Do you have any documentaries? Is there a book I can read? Can you give me some resources? Can you give me some more video links? There are a lot of people hungry. That's one thing I'm realizing. For all these naysayers and all these people that want to ridicule and laugh at us, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the people that are like, tell me. This is something that I've always been waiting for. It's like my whole life I've been waiting for someone to really break it down for me, and make sense. And we can do that because, again, by the power of the Holy Spirit speaking through us, speaking truth into people, he changes lives. We don't, right? We don't.
Absolutely.
We're just a vessel. We're used for his purpose. And what an amazing thing to be used for his purposes, to be used for his glory.
Amen.
And honestly, what an amazing thing to see people's lives changed for eternity.
Yes, beautiful, very wise words. And I think you're absolutely correct. And this is something that I had to learn as well. And I think this is the perfect way to not only respond and interact with the public at large, but that with our loved ones, because, sometimes with our loved ones, we become obsessed with trying to get them to know the truth and to hold important those things that are important in our lives. And yet, if they're not willing to listen and they are just going to become aggressive towards you, and it's just going to cause division, and they're not willing to hear anyways, then you're wasting your time. As you said, you're just wasting your time and your effort. You're just going to cause them to run away from you and to avoid you and to not want to speak with you anyways. And so don't throw pearls before swine. That the Bible is clear. Even I've been reading lately just Proverbs, and it's all about this, about then speaking, and those that are ready to listen, that will actually hear. That's when you plant the seeds and it will bear fruit. But if you're throwing seed upon stony ground where it can't take root, it'll just wither, when the sun comes out. And so these are the kind of things that in the scriptures, it's very clear to us that we should gauge, as you said, and offer truth where truth will be heard and where people will be receptive. But a question from Linda in the chat room, she asked, will the events be archived somehow for those of us who pay to watch online, as far as the live stream? Or are, how is that? Or do they have to watch the live stream live in order to catch it?
No, that's a great question. No, we have a 48-hour replay on the live stream. So if you sign up for the live stream, you'll be able to catch it 48 hours after. So if you can't catch it the day of or while it's going on, you'll have, a couple of days after it to, it will be saved for you to watch. So it's kind of like,
Awesome.
renting it. You'll be able to do a replay of anything. So if you catch it, say on Saturday or Sunday, you'll still be able to watch it. So yeah, that's a great question. The live stream's not just for that day and live. It will also be held for 48 hours. So there'll be an instant replay on it that you have access to for 48 hours after.
Very cool, very cool. And I know that you said there's going to be a DVD release. And can people go now and pre-order Scientism Exposed? Or
yeah, absolutely. Okay. We have that. We launched the pre-orders. I put up the trailer for Scientism Exposed 2, I think, a week ago. If you go on my channel, you'll see it. Really excited about that. We're getting that up. But yeah, we have the pre-orders. We opened the pre-orders, and it's $5 off for the DVD, and we're already accepting the pre-orders for it. But it will release November 20th. So the premiere, if you want to catch it live, for the worldwide premiere, that's kind of a live stream, 48-hour kind of replay on it. But the actual official release of the DVD will be November 20th. So, it's up to you. But again, you can catch it on November 10th at FEIC. Whether you're there in person, you'll definitely be able to see it. Or if you want to order the live stream, it's $7 to premiere the worldwide premiere of Scientism Exposed 2. And the pre-orders will be shipped out. You'll get them. We'll be shipping out November 20th. So you'll have them for the release date on November 20th.
And once more, where can people go to sign up for the live stream again?
If you want the live stream for both the conference or the Scientism Exposed 2 premiere, it's at fe2017.com. Or if you want to just Google Flat Earth International Conference, you'll find it. Just type in Flat Earth International Conference in Google, and you'll find it. And we have all the links there and all the information. And like I mentioned before, we have 16 tickets left. If it's your last chance and you really want to go and be part of history and meet with 500 other people, it's going to be an amazing time. Really excited. Like I said, awesome. I'm most excited about just meeting people and talking and just hanging out. And the sessions are going to be phenomenal. Everyone, and that's another thing I was going to mention too. Everyone that's going to be there. We've got Rob Skiba. We got ODD TV, Patricia Steer, David Weiss, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. We got Bob Nodell from Globebusters, Jaron Campanella from Jaronism, Mark Sargent from, he's on Truth Frequency as well with Strange World. We got Jonathan, and so is Jaron actually. But we got Jonathan Chrysolopoulos, the Morgal, myself, Pastor Dean Odell. I got Richard Hopkins, Mr. Thrive and Survive. Emmanuel Lakonga, the Controversy 7. He's also in Scientism Exposed 2. Carly Medrano, and we've got a new addition, Iru Ledadici from Argentina, and he is going to be speaking on how the Spanish world is waking up to the deceptions, and he has a radio show over there, and he's going to enlighten us on a lot of amazing things. So really excited to bring him over from Argentina, and I think he's going to wow a lot of people with just his expertise when it comes to CGI, computer modeling, and just a lot of things that he's brought to the table. And he's becoming very large presence over, especially with the Spanish-speaking communities around. Mm-hmm. And we're really excited about that. So we've got a full schedule. We're going to be covering topics with the Bible. We've got Flat Earth in the Bible. We've got Pastor Dean Odell is going to be covering that. We got NASA and space lies. We're going to go through Flat Earth 101 with ODD TV. We've got breaking down the heliocentric, scientific methods. We've got some amazing stuff. 2 full days, and like I said, we've got the evening entertainment happening on the last day with the premiere of Scientism Exposed 2, and then the Flat Earth Video Awards hosted by Patricia Steer and Mark Sargent.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a chance to interview Iru with Steve Torrance and Mike Kavanaugh. And,
nice.
It was.
Awesome.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. And we're actually going to be bringing them on with the discussion on their new model, which is fantastic.
Amazing.
To research.
And I hope to. I've been talking and discussing with Mike and stuff. I'd love to be able to get him over for FEIC 18. Mm-hmm. I think they're doing extraordinary work, the FE core group, and just brilliant stuff. And just so happy to have them part of the community. Like I said, it's amazing, and it's time. I always say to people when it comes to FEIC, it's time that this happens. So many people have been behind their computers and they've seen people on screens, and now people are all going to meet. Converge those 2 days, and going forward from there, I think it's just going to develop long-lasting friendships. The community is going to mature. We're going to start, really pushing this forward in a very organized, professional manner. And I think it's time, and it's going to be an amazing time. I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on behalf of the community, we thank you, brother, for all of your efforts and for organizing this and bringing it to fruition and actually, giving everybody a chance to congregate in this manner. It's going to most certainly be a fantastic thing and something that, people will not forget. And, lifelong relationships are going to be began. Because of this as well, but we've got just about we've got 3 minutes remaining, and so I want to give you a chance for final comment and anything that you'd like to share with regard to your work.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was unfortunate that it couldn't be part of it this year. We definitely want to have you for next year. So we'll make sure that we can get arrangements and get it booked in nice and early for next year. And, I'll fill you in more on, where the location will be and everything like that as we get closer to kind of securing all of that. But definitely looking forward to having you out for next year. It's going to be great that you're going to have a great presence there, with your materials and your books. And you've done a phenomenal job. Basically the hours that you spent, in your research and the books that you've written. I mean, we're very appreciative of what you've done. I mean, you spent a lot of time and effort really, exposing these lies and basically being able to articulate it and put it into book form for so many people that, really want to read, want to research and want to look at this in a serious manner. So, I mean, big thanks to you, Zen. Like I said, it was amazing meeting up with you. A lot of respect, for what you do. And I'm definitely excited to, get to know you more and spend time as we have opportunities to meet up like we did there, a couple of months ago. And like I said, it was really extraordinary, like I said, how it all worked. I mean, I landed in Atlanta, threw out a message and said, hey, anyone in Atlanta want to meet up, and then all of a sudden someone just had a question, because I'm like, what flat earthers in Atlanta? I had no clue. And then all of a sudden someone just put like Zen Garcia ? Like they didn't even really know. They were just thinking maybe, right? And
right.
like I said, it was really a nice, it was a real bonus of the trip, because again, it wasn't planned. And like I said, but God had it planned. And I was really privileged to be a part of it and be able to sit down and meet with you. Because like I said, we've done about 2 or 3 shows now, I think, over the last couple of years.
Right.
And it was just nice to spend time in your home and get to know you more. And it was a real honor. And I'm looking forward to definitely having, basically Kathy and everyone there, representing and having your materials there, because I think people can learn a lot from the stuff that you put together. So, huge thanks to you. And I really appreciate your support, being part of Scientism Exposed too. I really appreciate everything that we talked about, the stuff that's going to be in there. And we covered a lot of topics. And I think that there's some that, you articulated in a way that I think it's going to really resonate very well with people. And it's going to bring things into focus for a lot of people. And yeah, it's going to be an incredible process. I'm pleased and proud that this is all happening. And I'm just honored that God's choosing me to lead and to do this. And I just want to do him proud, for sure.
Yeah, and to facilitate all these, and most certainly send all of our regards to your wife as well, because we know she's working just as hard as you from behind the scenes and organizing and pulling together all of these efforts and making it all happen and supporting you in your endeavors and your work. And again, thanks again, brother. And likewise, I appreciate you and all that you do. And I know the listening audience is grateful for all of your documentaries. And if you would, in the last 30 seconds, can you list the ones that you've created that people can find on your channel real quick?
Sure. Yeah. The Global Lie, Impossible, Scientism Exposed, and then coming up soon will be Scientism Exposed 2.